They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Welcome to SlashLot 605. I am one of your hosts, Sam the Damned Lenz. I am joined today by Casey the Killer Kelderman. How are you doing, Casey?
I am doing great, Sam. Hopefully, as we're doing this, there won't be as much of a delay. But if there is, that's all right. That's just the perks of doing this show.
You know what? Your mouth is finally syncing up with your words, so I think we might be good.
I think our intro probably kicked us back into the right gear. That's good.
Oh, good.
We are missing a fellow co-host this week. I think he stumbled into Camp Crystal Lake and has not returned.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, Blakenstein Ginnathan found his unfortunate self on the end of a butcher blade. And
he might have caught himself at the end of a knife held by Norman Bates.
Ooh, Norman Bates. It's funny that you bring that up, Casey.
Why is that?
We're going to be talking about Norman Bates for quite a bit of this episode.
What?
Yeah. Our topic today, in case our listeners haven't actually looked at the title of this episode, is the Psycho series, starring Anthony Perkins and Vince Vaughn as Norman Bates.
And Vince Vaughn. Oh, Vince boy. Vaughn. I cannot wait to talk about these because we'll get into it in the second half. But everything but the original and the remake were recent watches for this. Had never seen the sequels.
Yeah. I hadn't either. I had not seen 2 through 4. And we'll talk about it, but I was pleasantly surprised.
There's a lot to unpack with those. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about them.
Yeah, for sure.
One of those I am not, but at least you're on the show to even us out for a certain movie.
I'll champion what I need to champion. So,
Sam, should we? I don't know. Do we have any other spiels that we should get out of the way first? I don't think so.
I think we're good to get into the fresh meat, the recent watches. Do you have a couple that you want to talk about?
Yes, let's jump into
your Letterboxd, and there were a few that I was excited that you had finally gotten around to.
Yeah, let's get into the fresh meat. Let's dig in. I'm hungry. Let's do this. First of all, I told you this before we started recording. It was before last night as we're recording this. I had not watched any horror movie for this entire month of December, which I feel really bad for. The only ones I had watched up until last night or yesterday were Little Nicky, which I'll throw that in here. It has enough horror elements.
It's got enough horror elements to count.
I had never watched the movie beginning to end. I had always caught it on TV. I never owned it growing up. This is one of those early Sandlers I cannot get into.
You know what? I've never actually seen this. I noticed it was on Netflix, and Maria really liked it when she was a kid. So we're planning on watching it. It sounds right up my alley. But yeah. You didn't care for it?
I didn't care for it. No. It was Sandler. It was kind of the most gratuitous Sandler doing a weird voice movie. Except nothing that he says is funny, except maybe one line about Popeye's chicken. I do have to say it's the best Quentin Tarantino performance he's ever delivered. So it has that. At least
in it.
Tarantino is in this.
That's amazing.
He plays a crazy homeless man in New York. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
That seems pretty on par with Tarantino.
Yeah. I don't love this movie. I think this is kind of the most, again, like I said, gratuitous with his voice. Also with introducing his friends into the cast.
Yeah.
Because there's at least in Big Daddy, it works because there's the dynamic between Sandler and the kid.
Yeah.
This is Sandler and his friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work out too well. We needed sad to say, we needed a Rob Schneider in this entire movie to even everything out, or a David Spade. You know, that was one of those type of movies. I don't love the movie. I'm not going to fault anyone for liking it, because hell, both of us liked Hubie Halloween. There's plenty of bad Sandler movies I do like. I like Chuck and Larry. I like The Longest Yard. I like Mr. Deeds.
Yard, Mr. Deeds. All of these I love.
There's no forgiving any of them, but I like them. So I can't fault anyone for liking Little Nicky.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, when I gave The Wrong Missy 3 out of 5 stars, I figured I have no place to comment on anybody else's movie taste.
Sam, I also gave The Wrong Missy a 3-star.
There's no host a podcast together.
I know there's no reason anyone should ever like The Wrong Missy, but God damn it, I had so much fun watching it.
Yep,
yeah,
for sure.
That's again. I do think down the road we'll have to do a Sandler podcast. Maybe just a spin-off of something.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of spin-offs, we've also pitched a ScoobyDoo spin-off.
Yes,
called Dooheads. #Dooheads.
#Dooheads. Yep. You watched a Scooby-Doo movie recently.
I did watch a Scooby-Doo movie recently. Last time we were here, I talked about the 2002 Scooby-Doo movie.
Mm-hmm. Classic. 5 out of 5.
It is a 5-star. This one is not. I finally watched Scoob. That came out earlier this year. Finally caught it on HBO Max. I am so glad I didn't pay that $20 fee in March or April when this movie was first released. Because boy, is this movie bad.
Here's where we differ a little bit.
I was going to say, I can see how you like it. Go if you want to start with the positives. That's
I will 100% admit that I understand why people don't like this movie. I get it. My big thing was like, it felt like one of those Scooby-Doo meets crossovers, you know? And in that sense, it really wasn't a Scooby-Doo movie, but I also really liked the dynamic between Scooby and Shaggy. And I also loved seeing all those old Hanna-Barbera characters. Captain Tracy Morgan as Captain Caveman made me want to like jump up from my couch and cheer. Like, and why am I blanking on the name? The villain of Dick Dastardly from Wacky Races. Like, I remember Wacky Races as a kid, and like seeing him ham it, like Jason Isaacs hamming it up as a villainous Dick Dastardly. I just loved it. Everything with like Muttley, them using the archival, because like no one can get the Muttley laugh right except for that original voice actor, and I'm unfortunately blanking on his name, but they literally had to use archive footage, and I heard that Muttley laugh and it just hit every nostalgia nerve in me. So this movie is a solid 3 out of 5 for me. It's not great, but it hit enough of those like little nostalgia things for me to where I ended up liking it more than most people.
See, I will agree with all the positives that you just said. I think every character that is not a part of the Scooby Gang is a ton of fun.
Yep.
And I think that's the problem. I would have rather have watched a Blue Falcon movie that features Dick Dastardly and, an appearance by Captain Caveman. Like, I would have watched that. But it's the fact that Scooby-Doo has to get thrown into this movie because no one remembers Blue Falcon or Dick Dastardly or any of those characters.
Yep.
Besides super, like, cartoon nerds. But I think Mark Wahlberg is a ton of fun as Blue Falcon. I would have rather have watched a whole movie.
Dynamite is just
yeah. I would have watched a whole movie with them. They give nothing for Fred, Daphne, and Velma to do. Fred has the same character arc that he has in the Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
where he's in love with the van, except it does not work in this one. It works in the Halloween one.
That is such a weird thing that they've done with all the Scooby-Doo stuff recently. Is like Fred has a fetish for the mystery now, and it's really weird. I don't know where that exactly came from, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it just doesn't. The
casting in this didn't work for me either. Will Forte just doesn't work as Shaggy for me. It just
He's a little
it didn't.
too shrill in his
Yeah.
vocal performance. I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
It seems really strange just not to have Matthew Lillard do it.
Yeah.
Like I think. Go ahead.
I would have given it 4 out of 5 if Matthew Lillard had voiced Shaggy.
And I think it would have worked.
With you.
The dynamic would have worked a little better too. If we had that, I think Efron's pretty good as Fred. I mean, if we're going to do a live action version, Zac Efron should probably play him.
My favorite part of the entire of like the Mystery Incorporated stuff between Fred, Daphne, and Velma is when the cop pulls them over. Pulls off the mask, it's dastardly, and Fred just can't get over it because of how hot the cop was. It's a dumb part, but it just makes me laugh every time.
Gina Rodriguez plays Velma, and she just does not sound like Velma at all. Like it's really jarring almost. Amanda Seyfried is kind of just in the movie, it's like as Daphne, like. There's nothing to say there.
They don't bring any of that like classic character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm not a huge fan of Kate Micucci's vocal performance as Velma. Like, I don't know what it is about that, but it sometimes it works. And like, but like on Return to Zombie Island, I did not care for her vocal performance. She wasn't bad in Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo, but she at least tries to give it that like Velma character, that classic Velma vibe, and I didn't get that from the voice acting in this movie. No,
especially those three, and again, like I said, their characters are given nothing to do. Like, and I think that's the biggest disservice. Is we and that's why I really liked Happy Halloween. Is like, well, that was a Velma movie more than anyone else. This is Scooby and Shaggy, and we've seen that a bunch of times, and this movie just it did not work for me. It tried to make Scooby-Doo a superhero movie. A lot of plot conveniences in this, and again, maybe touching back on voice acting, and this might be sacrilege to say, Frank Welker's getting up there in age for playing Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
And it worked for the adult Scooby-Doo, but hearing it come out of the puppy Scooby-Doo was weird. It was weird. Yeah. And I would have, you recasted everybody younger, I would have maybe gone younger with the young Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. That's a good point. I never even thought of that. This movie has problems, but I will admit to when it came out, I watched it like 3 times in one weekend just because like it hit me in the like childhood center, and it came at a time that like, we were all locked down. I just hated the movie when it came out, and I ended up really, really digging it for what it was, while recognizing that it's like, this isn't the greatest, The
last thing I'll say is that both of us will probably agree Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo was the best Scooby-Doo movie that came out this year.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And not just because like everything that's said on Halloween gets bumped up an extra star. Like it's legitimately the better movie.
A good Scooby-Doo movie.
Yeah, it is.
Let's run through. So I've been watching the Addams Family TV show, the original one from the 50s, 60s.
Yep.
I never watched it before.
Set. You hadn't?
I hadn't.
Oh my God.
Is it only 2 seasons of the that show had?
I think 3.
Maybe
There's
3
volumes in my DVD box set, but I know the television's like.
Yeah, it has like 30 episodes in the seat. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's super weird. So like, but I love that show. Where are you watching it?
It's on Tubi right now for free.
Is it on Tubi?
Yeah. I'm about 10 episodes into the show, and I'm like, this is super modern for being a 60s television show.
Yeah, it was kind of groundbreaking. Like I remember, I mean, obviously I don't remember when it first aired, but I remember watching it on like TV Land at my grandma's house all the time growing up, and I just loved it. Like to me, I know this is kind of sacrilegious to say, but to me, like I didn't see the Barry Sonnenfeld Addams Family movies until after I'd already seen the original TV show. And I still, to this day, I like the Sonnenfeld films, but I don't love them. I personally, like, this is going to sound really weird, but I think that the newest, the animated version, hews closer to what I think the Addams Family is, despite all the, like, pop culture and, like, rap music and all that. despite all that, I feel like it hews closer to what I love about the Addams Family than Sonnenfeld's live action films.
Yeah, I'm coming very new into the Addams Family because the first thing I ever watched was the animated Addams Family from last year, 2 years ago, something.
Last year, yep,
yeah,
2019.
That was the first one. Then I watched the Sonnenfelds, and now I'm on the TV show. So I'm going in like reverse order for this series. I love the 90s movies. I love them.
Like them.
I'm having a blast watching those.
Christina Ricci is still my favorite Wednesday Addams.
Easily.
But beyond that, I mean, and I like Angelica Houston and Raul Julia. There's something about those where it's like, I like Reunion better than I like the first one. Or Values. Reunion was the made-for-TV one with Tim Curry.
Tim Curry, yeah.
Yeah. And I haven't watched that one in forever. I like the cast, but like, especially in Values, like they almost over-sexualize things. And like, I don't know, to me, that's just not what the Addams Family is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you know? But like, since it is, the TV show is very fresh in my mind. Like, Gomez and Morticia are kind of all over each other in the TV show.
Yeah, and I guess that's not necessary. Like, it's the Joan Cusack doing this to, you know, Fester and things like that, where I'm just like, it almost borders on like
too much.
Yeah. Like, because there's a difference between like affection and sensuality and then like overt sexualization. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm just like super weird and picky with the Addams Family, and I know I'm like. And you
like the animated one, so
I do.
I don't love that one either, man.
In this episode, I have no right to judge anybody else's movie taste.
We're just a couple guys who like horror movies and like bad Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Yeah. But again, if you have not watched the actual Addams Family show, like go watch it on Tubi. We're like it's kind of like a nightly watch now. We'll watch an episode or two, and yeah, it's a ton of fun rewatching those Addams Family shows. But yeah, I'll quickly go into my next three here because they're all from this year. So I finally watched the Creep Show holiday special that just dropped on Shudder.
I still need to catch that.
Written, directed by Greg Nicotero. Basically, the plot of this is that this guy believes he's a werewolf at night, and he believes he's killing people, and he goes to this basically an AA meeting, but for people who can transform into animals.
Nice.
And I don't think I want to give anything else away from that, but they delve into the mythos of like were animals and the mythos of Christmas and Santa Claus in it.
Nice.
And it is not what you expect.
That sounds dope. I can't wait to watch it.
You'll love it, Sam. It is wild. It is crazy. It is what I wish the Halloween special animated one was. And again, like that's had budget constraints. This definitely has budget constraints. It's all one location. But it totally works. The Nicotero special effects, once they're introduced, are awesome. They're a little cheesy, but they totally work for the story. There's a punchline kind of to the end of the movie that just only could happen in 2020, and it works perfect. I loved it. This is so much fun.
That's awesome.
Solid 45 minutes long. Yeah, perfect Halloween, not Halloween, holiday special. So,
very nice.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to check it out. You'll love it.
Yeah, I'm excited to check this one out. I just haven't, I haven't gotten around to it.
My last two are ones we might talk about next month as we do our best of 2020. I'm kind of catching up on some of the horror movies I missed. I watched His House on Netflix.
I have not seen that yet, but it is on my watch list.
Definitely check it out.
Only good things.
Yeah. So this is basically about this husband-wife duo that travel from Saudi Arabia.
I think so, yeah. Or Sudan.
South Sudan, yes.
I think. Yeah.
So they travel to England for a fresh start. They're trying to get away from everything going on in the Middle East. And they come to England. They basically are given a house and an allowance by the UK government. They're not supposed to leave the house besides getting groceries and, anything necessary for the house. Not allowed to get jobs. So they're basically confined to the house in this entire movie besides leaving for groceries, doctor appointments, necessities type of stuff. And this movie goes into like the prices people pay to get to freedom, what freedom actually means. Is this actually a fresh start for these characters? Is it something that, you know, many times throughout the movie they're thinking about just going back because of the demons that they're facing from leaving South Sudan. You know, they had those ghosts that are, in the case of a horror movie, physically manifest. But it's all about the thematic elements of what these ghosts actually mean. And yeah, this is a great movie. Netflix original movie. Netflix doesn't get a lot of props for its horror movies, which most cases is mostly accurate. Yeah. But sometimes they'll throw out a gem like this. And yeah, this is going to fly in under the radar as one of the better horror movies from this year, and one of the most socially conscious ones too. Like this movie is generally terrifying, has a lot to say. The acting in this movie is just tremendous, especially our two leads. Matt Smith is in this movie, former Doctor Who, and he's a lot of fun. Like he's kind of the character that our leads can kind of fall back on in a way, even though he works for the government. So yeah, his house on Netflix, highly recommend. Yeah, I've heard really good things, and I can't wait to watch this one. Yeah. I've heard it very much compares to like the flagship horror movies of the last couple of years, like Get Out, Hereditary, Midsommar, those types of things. And so I'd be crazy if I didn't watch it before we start putting together our best of the year lists for sure. Yeah, we'll probably be talking about it next month. Yeah, I would guess so. Same with this other one. I would assume will probably appear maybe on my list. It's dancing around there. I think Blake really champions this movie. Kristen Stewart's Underwater from earlier this year. This is one of my favorite movies of the year, hands down. God, I love this movie. I think all three of us might end up having this on the list. This movie rules. This is a ton of fun. It's on HBO Max right now. I think it just got added, but yeah, I wish I saw this in the theater back when it came out in January? Yeah, it came out January 10th, and I went opening night, and there was no one. I was like one of like, I was with Maria, and we were literally like 2 people out of maybe 7 or 8. And it was so frustrating because we walked out of that both like, that was phenomenal. Like, more people need to go see this. Yes. This movie rules. It's basically takes place in this underground, like, I don't know, what is it, like a submarine city almost? Yeah, it's an underwater research station that goes like super deep, which already that opening shot where it's just literally dollying down into the depths, I instantly, like, that's the best way to start a movie like this, because it just got me claustrophobic, it got me on edge, and it just never let up after that. That's why I wanted to see it in theaters, because you would feel that immersive, like I'm underwater with these characters a little more in a theater. But 5 minutes into this movie, you're thrown into it. Like, you don't get any introductions to anyone. You spend like I said, 5 minutes with Kristen Stewart, and she's delivering 2 lines. She's delivering 2 lines of dialogue as the narrator of this, and boom, we're in the story and we're running. It begins to flood, and the whole entire submarine literally imploding within like 3 minutes of the movie starting. Yeah, it's going to end up on the bottom of the ocean, and that's our movie. Like, how do we get out of this? And it is nonstop from them. Kristen Stewart's really good in this movie. I love that like I said, we're thrown right into it, and we do get some character moments throughout, but we're not like shoved dialogue into our faces before everything happens. Yeah. I think you still get a good sense of the characters without them taking a whole first act. Like, I mean, it literally starts in the second act of what most movies would be. Like, this starts where most movies would start their second act. And I just love it. I love it all the more for that. Yeah. And I mean, TJ Miller's in it by playing a character only TJ Miller could play. At least, spoiler alert, he does not last very long, which is good. If you don't like TJ Miller, hey, good news for you. Yeah. He's like
he's not in it for very long.
He's not. He's not, and he probably gets it the worst out of everyone.
Oh yeah, like,
and not to spoil what's happening, but there is some big Lovecraftian vibes in this movie. Very big Lovecraftian vibes.
And third act is so good.
Yeah,
so good.
I just hope we can keep getting more movies like this. And I know performance-wise at the box office, I can't imagine this was great. I haven't looked it up.
It wasn't. It didn't do well, but it was also a Fox movie that got shelved because of the Disney merger. And then Disney didn't want, like, I don't think Disney realized if they would have put this out in the middle of summer, well, granted, 2020, never mind. But I don't think they made the right move dumping it in January because people assumed this movie was a typical January horror movie, and I thought it was miles better than that. You know? Yeah.
It and again, like it had like alien vibes, and that's how they should have treated this movie.
Yeah, it should have been. It should have been an event film for sure.
And again, it was just kind of thrown into the January lineup. Again, it would have been interesting to see if this would have had a summer release, or if it would have gone straight to VOD or something like that. Or
and it might have, just because it was more mid-budget, but it was also, it's higher budget than what most movies like this are getting these days. And I think that's part of why it didn't do super well. But I mean, I bought this movie on digital like the day it was available, because I was like, I loved it in the theater and I thought, I got to get this immediately. And I dug into the special features, and they literally, I think it was like an old Home Depot they hollowed out. Like it was an abandoned Home Depot, and they hollowed it out and they did everything in this one building. Like dry for wet, all that kind of, like the same stuff that they did for Aquaman, and it just works. You would never get the sense in this movie that it was shot for under 50 million. Like it feels like a big blockbuster horror movie.
There's a ton of sets in this movie. And that was what I was super impressed by. I mean, third act stuff aside, like just the set work in this is really great. There's a ton of sets. We're going through a lot of different locations in this. Everything looks really great. This is one of the best of the year, and we'll talk about it more next week, or not next week, next month, when we do our best of the year countdown.
For sure.
Yeah. So this will be talked about next week. I keep saying next week, but it feels like we only do this once a month. I'm in the backlot vibe of doing it next week. Next
if we want to move this to weekly, I'm game.
Just be ScoobyDoo and Addams Sandler talks every week.
Pretty much.
But that was it. That is available on HBO Max right now. So if you do want to catch up on that, and I think that's kind of what you and I will be watching from now until the next show is 2020 watches and catching up on those. But I'm interested to hear
HBO Max is on Roku. I'm just like, I'm so stoked.
And there's quite a few on there from this year, so that's a great place to start if you're looking for 2020 catch-ups. Is on there. Yeah,
for sure.
All right, what do you got on your fresh meat? That was all I had.
Nice. This was a first time watch for me. It was one that I've been wanting to get to, but I wanted to watch it during the Christmas season, and just last Christmas I never got around to it, and so I just had to wait another year. But I finally watched Anna and the Apocalypse, and I really dig this movie. It's super weird. It's unlike anything else I've seen. The Soldier of War or whatever, that musical number midway through, that I was like, this is amazing. And I don't know if it balances its tones quite. Like, there's some weird tonal stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, okay, like it didn't quite pull it off. But overall, like, this movie was pretty freaking great. Like, I liked it a lot. It'll definitely be one of those like annual watches from here on out.
I still need to pop that one on this year. I watched it last year, I think, during Christmas, and this movie is a ton of fun. But the same problems you have are the same ones I have. Is it's tonally doesn't totally work. I feel like if another director more seasoned director maybe stepped in and balanced the comedy, horror, and the musical all together a little better, might have worked. But
I know it would kind of be repeating past themes because it does definitely give me vibes of like Shaun of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Edgar Wright would have really killed it with the script,
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I agree. But I mean, the musical numbers in this, I love the musical numbers in this.
So like the crazy principal at the end is just so great. You're just like, oh my god.
I don't love the principal. He's a little too dialed up. Yeah. Like just dial down 1 or 2 notches and you're there. But
I think like I kind of got that until his musical number kicked in. And then like once his musical number kicked in, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like I like the musical number, but
I still very much recommend this movie. This movie is a ton of fun.
And it has some balls too. Like, hello, Gypsy. She wants to
join in the Anna and the Apocalypse talk.
Yeah. She's like, hey, I like this too.
Yeah, I do think this is one of the most fun and like inventive horror movies we've gotten in a while. Because how often do we get a horror musical, especially one set on Christmas?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My other not to get off too off topic here, but I also love Stage Fright, the musical. Have you seen that one?
I've not seen the musical. No, I've seen the like 80s slasher movie.
Yeah. Okay. So Stage Fright stars Meatloaf, and it's about kids at a theater camp, and they slowly they're like getting picked off by a kabuki mask, guy in a kabuki mask that sings heavy metal, like hair metal from the 80s. Oh, it's great. It's so over the top and like it's gory and just, I love it. It's pretty fantastic. I didn't watch it recently, but it is one that I pop on from time to time because it's pretty awesome. But okay, so going beyond that, I watched Spontaneous, which is basically it's a love story starring Catherine Newton from 13 Reasons, or not Catherine Newton. Why am I blanking on her name?
Langford?
Langford, yes, Langford. Newton's from Freaky. And Charlie Plummer, and they're like high schoolers where all of a sudden, like these high schoolers start spontaneously exploding, and they're falling in love during this, and it's a really interesting watch in the year of 2020, because it kind of deals with like at a certain point in the movie, like all these high school kids are getting quarantined because no one knows what's going on with them. It definitely has a lot to say on just teenage life, school shootings, that type of thing, because it's like there are some very difficult to watch parallels in parts of this movie. And I think tonally, this movie is really kind of a masterpiece because it's hard to watch because it's such an emotional ride, and it's so, like, especially if you've been around that kind of thing, like it's very traumatic, and it could definitely trigger people who have been through something that it's kind of commenting on. But it's also really funny, and really heartfelt. And the last, like, there's like a voiceover monologue at the end of it that just like brings it all together and ends on this like weirdly triumphant note. And I love this movie. It might be one that we talk about next month, to be totally honest. It was pretty dope.
Interesting. I haven't had the chance to watch this yet. I've been hearing very good things about this. This guy's been having quite the year, Brian Duffield, though.
Yeah, because he was one of the writers of Underwater.
Yeah, and he directed the Love and Monsters too, right? Mm-hmm. Or yep. No, he wrote that.
Wrote that. I think he directed Spontaneous, actually.
Yeah. That's two.
Yeah, he directed Spontaneous.
So that's 3 movies he wrote, 1 he directed, all in a year.
Yeah, and all of them are great. like I loved Love and Monsters. Spontaneous is awesome. Underwater is awesome. Like this guy is having a banner year, and I can't wait to see what he does next. Because yeah, Spontaneous is fantastic. I think you would like it, Casey.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah, it's on Vudu right now for only $7. So I
bought it, and it was worth it. It was very much worth it.
Oh, we should also mention that he wrote the first Babysitter, so he has credit for the characters on Babysitter Killer Queen.
There you go. Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't care for Babysitter Killer Queen quite as much as the first one, but it was, it was fun.
He's come a long way since the Divergent series.
Yeah, that's for sure. The next two that I watched, I have a little less to say. I watched the indie film Porno on Shudder, and it just, I don't know, man.
Didn't work.
It didn't work. It just didn't work for me. It was just like, I don't know I guess I don't know what I was expecting from it, but this just wasn't it. I know Blake kind of made fun of me because I was like, like you have these characters that like you bring in some certain elements that you could actually make like some kind of like an emotional backbone out of some of these characters. And then you just fail to do anything with it. And he's like, well, it's a movie called Porno that opens with two people boning. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But like, you could still do something with it, like,
yeah,
it just, I don't know. It didn't work for me. And one that worked even less, unfortunately, was Bit. It's a vampire movie, pretty under the radar. The one thing that's really cool about this movie is that it's kind of a landmark in casting. Like the lead character is a trans woman, and she is played by a trans woman. And it's very like female empowering. It tries to be a little of the Lost Boys, a little of Heathers, but there's no arc to it. It's not the emotional, like there's no real emotion to it at all. It's like,
what year did that come out? Was it this year?
It was like a festival circuit in 2019, and then it kind of came out on like digital sometime this year, I think. And I wanted to like this, and the trailer looked really good. But it ended, and it was so weird because like it flew by runtime wise. It's only like a 90-minute movie, and it felt like 45 minutes. But the reason it felt like 45 minutes was because it felt like it was the first act of a bigger movie. Like it just, I don't know. It was so weird. I rewound it. I thought that I was wide awake the entire time, Casey, and I literally thought I fell asleep midway through this movie. And I rewound it to see if I had, and I hadn't. And it just really bummed me out because the trailer looked awesome. There's this character, Duke, that's supposed to be like the ringleader of this. And like the girl who plays her, like she's kind of menacing and cool and all that. And like the movie looks cool, but there's just, it's a hollow shell. And it's really cool that it has the representation factor in it. But I feel like those people that it represents deserve better than this movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
It just, I don't know. I just really wish I had better things to say about it. Because it really was something that I was excited to watch and something that I wanted to like. And at the end of it, I just didn't feel anything,
Yeah, I'm looking at the poster right now. The poster looks really cool.
Yeah, like
really
everything
great.
about this movie looked dope until I like watched it. And maybe I need to rewatch it. I don't know. It just didn't do anything for me, unfortunately. And, I say that knowing as a cisgender white man, like it might hit other people in a different way, but I don't think it really does anything with its representation besides just being there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all it doesn't
have anything really, to say.
Yeah, exactly. It tries to, but it never goes deeper than like surface level. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't. That kind of stuff usually hits me really hard, and it didn't hit me, you know? So I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'll have to rewatch it and see if I get something different out of it on a second watch. But
yeah, I mean, that's one thing I think we'll kind of talk about with some of these movies. I mean, we'll talk about in these series that sometimes it's better to go back and reanalyze the stuff you've watched before.
Yeah.
Because it might turn out you'll have a different perspective. Again, I don't know. I haven't watched either Porno or Bits. I haven't heard great things about either, but
yeah,
maybe a second watch will change it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a big proponent of that because honestly, the first time I watched Robert Eggers' The Witch, I didn't care for it much at all.
Mm-hmm.
And on a second watch, I was ready to call it the best horror movie of 2015. You know, like some things just hit you different, you know? So I'll check it out somewhere later down the road and see if it changes for me. But as a first time watch, it just didn't do much for me. But it is what it is, right? Due to Blake's recommendation, I watched the Kevin Bacon You Should Have Left. It was fun. It was pretty much what I expected.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything special. It was just, I don't know.
A fun 90-minute horror thriller.
Yeah, it's out there. It's really bonkers. And the ending doesn't work like at all. But I don't know. I can't say I didn't enjoy watching it once. Probably won't ever watch it again, but it was fun.
That's one of those I'm kind of waiting for, just for it to end up on like HBO or Netflix to watch.
I watched it on Peacock, so I have Peacock Premium. I don't know why yet. I don't use it too often.
Why do you have Peacock?
I don't know.
Sam, there are choices you need to make in your life, and Peacock is not one of those ones.
Yeah, it's probably not going to last much longer, but I rewatched Christine. That movie is 5 out of 5. It's a banger. Like, that's all I'll say about that. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and a top 20 80s horror movie.
According to some.
According to Killer Countdown.
According to our podcast, yes, that is true.
I watched The Wolf of Snow Hollow, also based on Blake's recommendation. Casey, you gotta see this movie.
Yeah.
It's so dope.
On my list to watch before next month.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We'll be talking about it next month, but yeah, none of it should work, and it all does. Like, it's a weird movie.
Still want to get you and Blake to finally watch his first feature, Thunder Road. So then we can talk about that too.
Yeah, I need to check that one out because you've sung its praises, and honestly, I didn't even when Blake first told me about Wolf of Snow Hollow, I'm like, Jim Cummings, like the voice of Winnie the Pooh, made a horror movie. Like, that just
werewolf
so
movie.
Weird. Yeah, I was like, what? And then I was like, oh, it's a different guy named Jim Cummings. Okay, and it was exactly what I wanted without knowing that I wanted it.
Yeah. Having seen Thunder Road and hearing that guy is doing a horror werewolf type movie, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And from what I've heard, it's very similar thematically and tonally to Thunder Road. So
yeah. I'm gonna love it. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, it's good. You'll love it. I've been telling everybody who's been on the fence about this movie, just buy it. Just buy it, because I watched it twice the weekend that I bought it. I watched it Friday night, and Saturday morning I woke up and I put it on again because I was like, I just need to reabsorb this. It's such a unique movie, and I love it. It's one of my favorites of the year so far. So, let's see. Watched a bunch of stuff.
I think I'm gonna have to run out to watch or buy that movie, because I feel like I just want to. I'll want to own a copy of that movie when I finally watch it.
I bought it digitally, and I still kind of want to go get the Blu-ray now, because I'm like, like this just belongs on my shelf.
Yeah,
like it feels like it belongs on my shelf.
I've done that before. I've bought digitally. I'm like, well, no, I need to own this movie in my hands. Yeah,
exactly. It's just one of those things where if I look on my shelf and it's not there, it feels like there's an empty space.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last recent watch, and I know you and I have very differing opinions on this movie, but I got to see Krampus at the State Theater, and oh my God, I love this movie. Oh my God. God dang it. It's like a top 3 Christmas movie for me. I love it. The scene where the girl's running down the street and Krampus is hopping from rooftop to rooftop. It's intense, man. And I love it. The scene where he finally makes it down the chimney and just you see his long, sharp fingers coming out of the fireplace, and then the horns emerge and he just comes out and he's just Krampus in all his glory. Oh my God. And then, it's funny as hell. It's got a stacked cast: Adam Scott, David Koechner, Allison Tolman? Is that who it is? Toni Collette.
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, I love it. I love it. And I understand why you don't, but
yeah, I watched it the opening weekend when it came out in 2015. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really hated it the first time I watched it. And then I rewatched it maybe 2 years ago. I didn't hate it. I still don't like the movie.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to give it another chance down the road. And I feel like I will eventually like this movie. It feels like if I watch it enough and have different expectations going in, again, I will like it a little more.
I feel like I was in like the minority that liked it a lot upon its initial release, because I saw it opening night too. And I was just like, I mean, I instantly was in love with this movie. And like the online discourse around it was largely negative. Like a lot of people were not into it. And I feel like there are more people that are starting to kind of come around on it.
I think it'll eventually get that cult status like Trick or Treat has. I think Spirit Halloween is selling Krampus stuff already. Like there's a push for it. I don't know if it'll reach the heights that Trick or Treat has, but it's on that way.
$100 to throw away in October, I would have a life-size Krampus behind me right now in my apartment.
The animatronic one?
Yeah.
And I'm super glad that our Sioux Falls State Theater got this.
Yeah,
that's very exciting that they get a Saturday night 10 p.m. Christmas horror movie during December. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I've loved the state. I've gone to 4 screenings now, and every single one I felt safe. You're distanced from people. The theater is immaculately clean and just. God, it's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to do like a Charlie Chaplin day where they just show nothing but like silent movies.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool. I mean, considering they opened in 26 and that was what they were showing, they've still got the orchestra pit in the front where they used to do the music for the silent films. And I just think that's so cool. Like, and I know we went to the opening night together. God, what did we see? Why am I White Christmas? Yeah. And then we went and saw Cinema Paradiso, and God, I saw It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, this theater is just amazing. Mm-hmm. It feels like my home away from home already. Yeah.
I mean, Christmas weekend, I'm kind of planning to watch all 3 at some point, all 3 of their movies that they're showing. So I will be there. Rocky, I'm obviously going to be at the first chance I can, because Rocky is my boy.
That's Make It Hot for me. I'm not missing that. That's one of my favorite comedies of all time. I'm so excited.
Quickly, I know we're getting way off topic, but I'll transition it back into horror. They're also playing, like you said, Some Like It Hot and Mary Poppins.
Yep.
I've not seen either. So I think watching it in the State Theater might be the best case scenario for watching both for the first time.
Yeah, for sure.
And I do like that they're doing something like Krampus at, it was 1 screening 10 p.m. on a Saturday night. Like, I would love if they did that, maybe 2 times a month. Yeah. Like Krampus, and maybe, January we'll get something different. It's like, I think that would be really fun. And from what it sounds like, the turnout was really good for it too. So that helps, especially for being a recent movie. That's kind of harder to get people to come back into the theater for a recent, movie that just came out.
Boomers on the left side of the theater that were just having a ball with it.
Were they?
Yeah, I mean, like they were definitely toasty, but it was a fun screening, man. Like the audience was super into it, and there's like a family of 5 a couple rows ahead of us that with like little kids, and I'm like, oh, how are they gonna? And they seem to be loving it. I mean, like. It was a really fun screening. I was really excited that I got to see Krampus on the big screen again, especially at the State.
Yeah, even though I don't like the movie, I'm glad people went to it, and I'm glad people had fun. Like like I said, I feel like I will like this movie eventually. Yeah. Blake and Reanimator it took him like 5 or 6 times to finally like Reanimator. This feels like my Reanimator in a way. Like I will eventually like Krampus, I feel. Yeah,
it's a great movie.
Santa or Krampus will sprinkle a little Christmas spirit on me and make me like the movie.
I think that's what I like about it. It's like I get the Christmas spirit from that movie. Like I don't know, it's weird. It's such a weird movie.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. We both of us only have one Christmas movie on our watch list. Do you watch a lot of horror movies during Christmas?
Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like I said, most of these recent watches were over Thanksgiving weekend because I was home by myself, and I watch a lot of Christmas movies, but I don't watch a lot of Christmas horror.
Yeah.
But I do have to watch Black Christmas, the 74 one.
That's the only one I'm feeling I'll have to watch before Christmas. I might watch it on Christmas Day even. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of Christmas movies. None of them are horror movies. Yeah. So.
Yep.
And you know, I will not watch the Killer Countdowns. According to us, the Killer Countdown's #1 Christmas horror movie of all time, Santa's Sleigh.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I listened to that episode, I genuinely thought Blake was like fucking with you. Like I really did. I was like, "There's no way. There's no like." Blake has taste. Like,
does he? Does he? Like we should talk. No, I like Santa's Sleigh, but it's not the #1. No, it's just not. Sorry, Blake. I know you're listening. Sorry,
Blake. We love you.
We do, even though you put Bill Goldberg #1 on a list. That's all right. We still love you, Blake. All right, is that all you got for fresh meat?
That's all I got for fresh meat.
All right. So, I mean, speaking of some fresh meat, though, let's get into the series that we're going to be talking about.
The series that snuck up on me and surprised me with how much I enjoyed every single movie in this. I'm like, is this... I mean, Scream is my favorite slasher. Like, not my favorite, but I think it's like the most solid as far as like quality-wise. You know, it's all pretty even keel because I'm a Scream 3 apologist. I'll fully admit to that. But the Psycho series, like, these are actually really good movies.
They are.
Was surprised. I mean, obviously it started with 1960s Psycho, right? Alfred Hitchcock. It's his masterpiece. It's my favorite Hitchcock. If it's not your favorite Hitchcock, I mean, I can't fault you for it, but it's got to be top 5, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's fantastic. It changed cinema. It not only, like, created modern horror, but it validated it, you know? This movie was a big deal, and it holds up so well. And,
yeah, this is a top 5 horror movie of all time for me. I love Psycho. Do you remember the first time you watched it? Because I vividly remember the first time I ever watched this movie.
You know, it's funny. I don't remember being in the moment the first time I watched it, but I remember watching it. I bought it on DVD when I was in high school, probably about sophomore year. And I watched it, and I loved it. And so I watched it like a bunch. And then I was like, my friends who liked horror movies, I was like, I've got this movie that you guys have to see. And I brought it over. And they spent most of the time making out with their girlfriends and then tried to tell me that the movie was boring. And I was like, you guys are terrible. You guys are terrible people. Why am I friends with you? And so I remember that vividly. Where were you when you first watched Psycho?
Not doing that. It was freshman year of college. I was in a film class, and it was on like a list of like 12 movies we could choose from for that week to watch. And so I had never seen Psycho before. I'm like, I really like horror movies. It seems like I should probably watch Psycho at some point. So I picked Psycho, and I mean, I knew the twist going into that. And I mean, I think we should say this now.
Unfortunate thing for me.
Spoilers for all 4 movies.
Yeah, for all 4 movies and the remake.
I think we recommend the Psycho 1 through 4. I mean, spoilers for the remake, but it's the same movie as this one.
It really is.
So spoilers for all 5 movies we're going to be talking about. So I knew the spoiler that it was, Norman the whole time dressed as his mother.
Right, and I did too, yep.
Even though watching it for the first time, I was getting really wrapped into it because it was like, wait, it's so well shot, and that when we get to the shower sequence, I'm like, okay, I guess it could be Norman. But it could be. Is it the mom though? Yeah. Are we getting a Friday the 13th thing here, or I'm actually thinking differently that it's it's actually the mother in this one and Norman's in the sequels? I don't know.
And that's kind of the thing, is it's such a genius movie.
Yeah.
That even if you know the twist, it still feels like it might not be the case. Because I was the same way. Watching it going like, I don't think that's Norman.
Yeah. Unlike Friday the 13th, where the reveal pretty much doesn't work. Yeah. And the fact that going in Jason or the mom, it doesn't really matter. It's just not as well put together as this movie is. In this case, it's like, I feel like it could be Norman's mom or it could be Norman. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So after watching that, I immediately was like, oh, awesome. I love that movie. Wait, there's a remake with Vince Vaughn? I'm going to watch that. So I watched it immediately right after.
Oh, that's a bad idea.
Oh no, what's happening?
A bad idea.
I just watched one of the greatest horror movies of all time, and then I watched one of the worst of all time. And then
you watched it again in color.
Yeah, with William H. Macy.
Yeah.
We'll get to that movie. But yeah, let's start with this one. 1960 Alfred Hitchcock's classic Psycho stars Anthony Perkins, who we will be talking quite a bit about. He's so good as Norman Bates.
He really is. Janet Leigh, the
Marion
mother
Crane,
one of the greatest scream queens of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And also
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis. And just Janet Leigh is just fantastic in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
She is just, doesn't matter how many times I watch it. When she dies halfway through, I'm still shocked and very sad about it.
I think that's one of the things that really works for Hitchcock's Psycho, especially rewatching it now, is that this movie, it's during the 60s. At this point, Hitchcock's not really known as a horror guy, because horror at this point is monster movies.
Yeah.
He's doing more thriller type of movies, and he has these classic Hollywood actors and actresses in these movies. And I mean, this one you have, Janet Leigh and Vera Miles in this movie, and we're doing kind of this, I don't want to say schlocky because it's much more than that, but it is a pulpy B slasher movie before slasher movies were ever a thought.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you have these classic Hollywood actresses in it and one of them dies halfway through it, that's huge.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, and the crazy thing with this is after I watched the movie, I found out it was based on a novel. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I was a big reader. I loved books. I still love books. But I went out and I ended up finding, I think there's 2 or 3 books. And I found one big hardcover that had all of Robert Bloch's Psycho novels in it. And I tore through all 3 of them. And so, it was just, it's interesting because the structure for the movie is all there. It's still very much you're following this girl and then she gets killed halfway through the novel, and it's surprising. But what Hitchcock did with it just elevated that material, because the novel is just kind of pulpy schlock. You know what I mean? It's not, I would consider Psycho 1960 classic, classy. I would not say that about the novel. Like, it's not. It's a paperback that you'd find on the rack in a dime store. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But damn, this movie that came out of it is just, I don't know, you know?
Yeah, and
crazy.
I mean, let's jump into the plot a little, because I think this plot is super interesting for a horror movie, especially during this time. You know, we're set up with, you know, Janet Leigh. She plays like this secretary. She gets this $40,000 to, basically she has to go bring it to the bank.
Yeah, she has to bring it to the bank because, you know, recently I got to watch this in theaters because Cinemark got it in for like one night. Oh my God, such a cool experience. And yeah, so she gets the $40,000 through this transaction, and her boss doesn't want to keep it in the office. He tells her, you need to bring it to the bank. And she's like, well, if it's okay, I'm just going to go home after I go to the bank. And like, you don't think anything of it. You know, the opening scene, she's with her boyfriend,
her
still
lover.
married. Yep. And they're talking about how if they had the money, they'd run away together and all that. And
sure enough, they get the money.
Sure enough, all of a sudden, she's not going to the bank. She's going home and she's packing a suitcase.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, so that's where this is going. This is going to be, you know, I imagine watching this in the theaters in 1960, you're thinking like, oh, this is going to be like a Lovers on the Run type of story.
And how do we get the money back to who it belongs to type of story.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, this is really when the score from Bernard Herrmann like kicks into gear. Like I love like her in the car and she sees her boss when she's supposed to be home.
Yep.
And he just kind of takes a second glance at her. It's perfect. Like you feel the tension in that scene. And then she takes off and, you know, she gets pulled over by the police.
Yep.
She buys a whole new car.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot going on before this. This is what, 25, 30 minutes before we even get to the Bates Motel.
Yep. And as someone who has like I get so anxious about things and I create conversations in my head that people like, I'm like, oh, what if these people are saying this about me type of thing. The voiceovers where she's like imagining them discovering that the money isn't in the bank. I'm like, that's so brilliantly done because anybody who's ever been anxious about something or other has done that before. And like, you're just like, you feel tense for her, but you also feel tense. You're like, I mean, that money needs to get back to the right person. Like, you don't really know if you're supposed to be rooting for her or not.
And I think that's one thing that makes this entire series interesting. Who do you root for? Yeah,
exactly.
The lines are very blurred in all of these movies, especially this one. I mean, yeah, she's stealing from her employer. Yeah, but then once we finally get to the Bates Motel and we get Anthony Perkins introduced, it's nonstop from there. I love the setup for this, but once we get there and we get introduced to Norman Bates, Anthony Perkins is so good.
Yeah, the parlor scene is just it's film school 101. I mean, the way he creates tension and tells you so much about both of these characters and where they're headed just with that simple conversation over a couple sandwiches. Oh my God. God.
Yeah. It's so funny story about this. I wrote a short screenplay that is basically a slasher movie. My character is more or less as Norman Bates in that, and has conversation like this with the main character of the story, and then gives monologues kind of like Norman does at the end of the movie. And yeah, it's very heavily psycho influenced, but even stealing a few lines from this movie, including one of my favorite lines from this scene is we all go a little mad sometimes.
Yep. It's such a great line, and it comes up later in the series too. It's like the fan service that the sequels give us. It's so great. Like I dig it.
Yeah, so this movie is like, especially in the 60s, it's pretty perverse for the 60s.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I mean, we have a peeping Tom in this.
Yep. It literally opens on two people like half naked in a bed together. I mean, that was unheard of. You know, just It's
first
kind of
toilet
insane.
flush in any movie. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
it's huge.
Yeah, it is, you know, and like nowadays you don't think about it, but you think about when this movie was made. That's insane. I mean, it's insane that a major studio released this, and and
it's still a huge label for that studio too. Like you go through the Universal backlot tour, there's a Bates Motel in the Bates house still there in the backlot.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is very cool. I went to LA after I graduated senior year. That was my like senior year gift from my parents, was we got to go on vacation to LA. Nice. And so we went on the backlot tour, and sure enough, the Bates house and hotel are right there. But right behind it is Ron Howard's Grinch set.
So you see Whoville behind the Bates
Whoville was right behind it, so it makes it immediately less scary.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, why do you still have those sets?
Oh, you didn't hear about How the Grinch Stole Christmas too?
Yeah, starring we couldn't get Jim Carrey, so we had to get Jamie Kennedy.
Jamie Kennedy, oh God.
They got him for Son of the Mask. They can get him for Grinch too.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Psycho. I do love, so when you get to the shower sequence, which I mean, that itself is probably, I mean, they did a whole documentary on that. Yeah. That alone is worthy of a whole podcast. So
yeah, the shot of the shower head.
Yeah. Like
people still don't, there are filmmakers today that have all the technology in the world that are like, I couldn't replicate that, you know? Like
the only thing I don't like about it, she didn't start the shower beforehand. She just stepped into a cold shower.
Yeah.
Like, let the water warm up. Come on, man.
Yeah, because you know that place didn't have instant hot water.
No. And who knows what was in that water? There's a swamp out back.
Yeah.
Come on. But once we get to that, the iconic, of course, Mrs. Bates sequence where curtain opens.
The shadow looming behind the curtain is still one of the freakiest images in any horror movie ever.
I mean, the iconic shot of the blood going down the drain into the eye, like, it's perfect. It's a perfect scene. This is perfect. I mean, this is a perfect movie, but yeah. But once we get to Norman coming down and mother blood, and then he comes down, cleans it all up. This is when we get a big reveal that I think a lot of people just don't talk about when they talk about Psycho. Along with disposing of her and her car, he just throws the money away. The money is set up for being the main plot of this movie. Halfway through, it's just thrown away. Yeah. Like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where the money is.
Realize at this point, like, it's not about the money at all. And all of a sudden, oh my God, this just turned into a murder mystery. Yeah.
Our main plot is gone.
Yep.
The money being stolen. Our main character is gone. What do we do now? And the movie just continues perfectly. Yeah.
It's never like, there are movies that try this that fail miserably. That just absolutely are not. It's like, well, whatever now. I don't care what's happening now.
Since you do bring the one that I can think of, it's not a good movie. Spring Breakers from a few years ago with James Franco introduces Selena Gomez as our main character.
Yep.
She's gone halfway through it, and I don't care after that.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I think it goes to show that
came out on rewatch. It does not hold up at all.
Yeah, James Franco is no Anthony Perkins either.
No, definitely not.
I do love that we get, like you said, kind of this murder mystery, like whodunit type of story now, because we get Sam Loomis, not played by Donald Pleasance in this one. Teams up with.
I love that John Carpenter just steals names from either other characters from movies he likes, or just, the people he works with.
I tend to believe it's the same character. That's how I view it.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's all a connected universe, Psycho and Halloween. So much so that someone that looks like Marion Crane shows up in a Halloween sequel. But she, let's see, Lila Crane is who teams up with Sam Loomis now. She's the sister. And the boyfriend, they team up for this murder mystery, trying to figure out who it is, and they end up at the Bates Motel. They hire this private detective who has maybe one of the most iconic death sequences of all time, which is incredible. I still don't know how they shot it. It's still great.
one that's spoofed. Well, not spoofed, but like
It's
homaged even in the second one.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do it in all of them, don't they?
Yeah,
Psycho.
they do.
Psycho 3 has one we'll talk about. It's the nun gets that.
That's right. Yep.
The remake obviously has William H. Macy does it.
Mm-hmm.
But none of them work like this one does.
No, not at all. I mean, the overhead shot of Mother coming out of the bedroom is insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's because you see her. You see her shadow before you see her. That scene is lit so brilliantly because, like, you know she's coming around that corner before you ever even see her. And you know this guy's just utterly oblivious to it, and it's terrifying.
Again, with that overhead shot, I do love, even in this first movie, we don't get to see a whole lot of this house that Norman lives in. Basically, you get that staircase and get the main hall, and you kind of get the kitchen in the back.
Yeah, but you get the cellar.
Yeah, but you still understand the entire layout of the house, even, we're shown 3 rooms.
It feels like a real house. Even though you've only seen 3 rooms, you know the house like the back of your hand just from this movie. I
mean, Psycho 2, we get to explore the entire house.
Yeah.
And even watching that along with Psycho, it's like, well, yeah, they're the same house. Like, it feels very connective in that way. Like, it feels very lived in, and like, this is a real house. And house is, iconic in itself. I mean, I love the look of the Bates house. Should we jump to the ending? Because I really want to get into the sequels, man.
Yeah, for sure. So,
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the ending is Sam Loomis, the lover, and Vera Miles, who is Lila Crane, the sister. They basically find out, like, hey, this detective isn't coming back. We need to take this into our own hands. They talk to the local sheriff. They find out the mother's been dead this whole time. So who's killing? Because at this point, I'm sorry, I'm still not sold that it's Norman. Even after they say mother's dead, I'm like, okay, so some other old lady could be up in that house.
Or did they fake her death?
Right. Did they fake her death? I mean, there's so much, like, even knowing the twist, I just still was having a hard time believing it. And it's because Perkins is just so good at being a sympathetic psychopath.
I was going to say, you don't want him to be the killer.
No, you don't. And it's insane. That shot of Mother's, like, I mean, they essentially, they go to the hotel posing as a married couple. And then Lila sneaks into the house while Sam attempts to, distract Norman, and that doesn't work. He gets hit over the head with a lamp, is it? I can't remember. And it's just like that reveal of Anthony Perkins in a wig and a dress.
Yeah.
Like with
in 1960.
Yeah. And that crazed look on his face where I'm just like, oh my God. Like, to me, that's one of the best reveals in any horror movie ever.
And I mean, before that, we get Lila in the cellar, and you see Mrs. Bates sitting there, and she spins around, and it's a corpse sitting in a chair. It's like, oh,
with the swinging light, and it's just coming in and out, and it's just, oh God, it's a terrifying sequence. It is, and it leads to my favorite ending shot of any horror movie, which is after the psychologist has explained that Norman Bates has a split personality.
Exposition dump at the end.
The exposition dump at the end. You just see the slow zoom in on Norman sitting in the little, like, cell.
Why he wouldn't even hurt a fly.
Yeah. Why he wouldn't even hurt a fly. And then that smile.
Just that smile. Oh, it's perfect.
Like, and just the way it's lit, like there's shadows across his face, and you're just like, this guy, I just, so no one can do that smile like Anthony Perkins either. Like, no one can.
this will kind of lead us into the second one. That ending I always reveal is Mother has fully taken over his. And they say that, I mean, at the end, obviously, but even more so, like that's why we don't need that exposition dump now in 2020. It fully reveals itself just by Perkins' performance, and then the monologue at the end, the narration. So, and again, it's a perfect ending for this movie. I love it, and I do love how that. I mean, obviously, all the sequels pay homage to this one in many ways, thematically or shot wise, and I'm stoked to talk about these sequels. So,
me too.
Let's jump into it. 1983 Psycho 2.
1983. So this movie, I swear, Casey, if I would have watched this movie before our big 80s countdown, I don't know if I would have played it, but it would have been in contention.
It would be an honorable mention.
Yeah, for sure. Because this movie I avoided these sequels for so long because, I mean, the remake was bad, and that was the next Psycho movie that I saw. Or was bad. I've rewatched it. We'll get to that. But but I didn't care for the remake, so I avoided the sequels at all costs. I'm like, you'd have to be insane to try and make a sequel to this movie. And you really I'm firmly of the belief that the director of this movie probably is insane. But God, does that insanity pay off here? I don't think I can think of a single other horror movie where you're actively rooting for the killer the entire way through. And I would argue maybe it's
while also feeling sympathetic for the people that he does kill.
Yes.
Or that are opposing him in this case.
The people, because I mean,
you look at like some of the Nightmare on Elm Street or Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th sequels. It's like, I'm rooting for Freddy and Jason.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, you're not.
But you're not feeling empathetic. You're not feeling empathetic for Freddy or Jason. You're feeling empathetic for Norman Bates.
Yeah. This weird movie is just like you're rooting for him to not be the killer. And in the end, he really, spoiler alert.
He's not.
But he's not. He's not the killer. And that's just insane to me. Like, he's the anti-slasher villain in this movie. Until the very end.
Which is, I love that scene.
Oh my God, it's so great.
Let's set up the plot for this movie. So it takes place 22 years after the original movie. Norman is now out. He has pled, insanity in his original case. He is now deemed sane and ready to be let back into the public. He's given back his house, the hotel, and he gets a job as a fry cook at this local diner just down the road from the Bates Motel. And there he meets Mary played by Meg Tilly. They develop this sort of very friendly relationship. I don't know if it leans too much into a romantic relationship throughout it, but it has
I never got that from it. You know what I mean? Like it always, it felt like it could have tipped that way, but it never did. Yeah. And
so she ends up rooming with Norman and basically helps him sort of keep his sanity anyway. He has someone to talk about this, and she never views him as, for the things he did in his past, really. And I mean, I think that's one of the most interesting parts of this movie. No one besides the returning Lila Crane does. Yeah. Or Lila Loomis in this.
Lila Loomis.
She marries, her dead sister's boyfriend. They connected 20 years ago. They did.
Yeah, they connected over the death of their loved one.
Murder.
Yeah, the murder of their.
He's gone on to be a police detective in Haddonfield, Illinois, and psychologist. So he is off over there. Well, she's still back here in California. Where does this take place? In Nevada?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's in the Southwest.
Yeah. They move it to the East Coast for the show Bates Motel, which I don't know if you've ever seen, but
I watched the first like season and a half, and then I've just kind of dropped off. I've heard it gets better, but
I've watched the first 3 seasons and I like them. I actually just, since we watched all these, I restarted the show because I was like, I need to catch the end of this because it's only 5 seasons and I like the first 3 quite a bit. So
I hear 4 and 5 are really good.
Yeah, I've heard the same. So so
Norman's getting all these
West Coast.
Yeah, West Coast. I think it's in the southern. I mean, Psycho 3 shows them in a desert, so I would assume Nevada. I think this is. But basically, Norman keeps getting these phone calls from Mother, who he has gotten rid of through his time in the Institute. So he firmly believes she's dead and is not part of him, but still gets all these phone calls from her, which are later to be revealed. And we should probably just jump into that. I think we have to talk about the big twist of this movie.
There are a couple. I know this is sacrilege, but I almost think, and it's purely because you and I both knew the twist going into the first one, but this one worked more as a whodunit for me. And it's because I went into this completely blind. I didn't know any of this. And I'm sure if I would have gotten to see the 1961 Unspoiled, it would have blown this one out of the water in every aspect. But just getting that like blind, like I really don't know who's killing everybody is insane. And that first twist that we get where Mary is actually Lila Crane's daughter. I mean, I assume that's the twist you're talking, right?
Yeah, that's the first. I want to go twist by twist. Yeah.
There's
a couple.
Yeah, there's a couple.
And I think they all work.
They do. They all, weirdly enough, they all work.
So yeah, when we get to that was one I did not see coming.
No,
because I knew that Norman wasn't. I knew Norman wasn't the killer in this one. That's the only thing I knew about it.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah,
I literally was completely blind in this movie. It blew me away.
So when we get that reveal, I'm like, oh, okay, that is interesting. We're getting the niece of, our main character of Marion Crane, the main character from the last movie that he murdered. So living with him and showing him sympathy too.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting because the villains in this movie are everybody in town. Like they're all rooting against him. I mean, you've got Lila Crane actively trying to make him go off the deep end, putting her own daughter in danger to try and make him go crazy and catch him in a murderous act, like provoking him to murder just to put him back in jail again. I was like, I mean, I get grief. I get the idea, but that's twisted,
And I mean, she's the real villain of this movie. I mean, Dennis Franz is also a.
Is he the hotel, hotel manager?
Yeah. Reminds me of the guy from Chopping Mall, waitress more butter guy.
Yeah, he's about as greasy and gross.
He is. So he's the one, running the hotel. He ends up being. He's the first person murdered, correct?
Yeah, and it's kind of an homage to that first detective kill in the first one, because you see the blade go across his face, and you see the slash mark through his eye, and then obviously there's no staircase fall because he's just getting murdered in the office of the Bates Motel. But that was the first homage where I was like, dope. Like this movie is great.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this movie, especially I was not expecting any returning other characters, and the fact that Lila is in this entire movie, played by Vera Miles, who once we get to her demise,
it might be
pretty wild.
I mean, aside from putting aside the original, it might be my favorite kill in this whole movie or in this whole series. Honestly,
it's great. It's so good. But introducing her character in this totally makes sense for the world of Psycho and everything that they're setting up and doing in this movie. And again, I love that everybody else in this town is rooting for Norman.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't care. They feel like he's paid his dues for the crimes he committed and has been rehabilitated, ready to integrate back into society. And everybody's rooting for him. Even the cops, you know, the people he works with at the diner. None of them are hanging out with him, but they all want to. They all want to
see him succeed. It's a weirdly optimistic movie for what it is, anyways.
And I think that kind of goes back. I mean, I got that feeling from the first Psycho too. Is that the police, when Vera Miles goes to visit the police captain's like house in the first movie, he feels the same thing about Norman. Then like, oh, he's a strange boy, but he doesn't mean any harm to anyone. Yeah. Does this town know he's been murdering for a long time?
Clearly, they forgive and forget.
They must. Oh, that Norman Bates.
It just, it is. It's so funny. And then, well, I mean, and then you kind of figure out how he gets the diner job in a later twist in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, where you're kind of like, okay, that...
The third twist, yeah.
Yeah, the third twist. That makes sense.
So let's get to the second twist then.
All right.
Is that... Okay, so I might need a little help. Who's killing who in some of these scenes? Because I think the lines are very blurred on some of them.
They are, because even when you know who's killing, you don't know who's killing.
Okay, yeah,
right?
it's set up that Lila Crane is doing some of these, correct?
Yeah, like that's how I read it.
But it is also some of them could have been in the third twist, Norman's real mother.
Yeah.
Sort of real mother.
Well, and the first murder, the Mary stands up for him, or the second one, the teenage boy in the cellar. She cleans up after it, or she says she
cleaned up the cellar.
Yeah, she cleaned up the cellar, and then you find out she didn't. So you're like, okay, well, who the hell did then? Because Norman couldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not her mother either. It's not.
Let's go murder by murder in this, okay?
Yeah.
So we start with Dennis Franz, the guy who used to run the hotel.
Yep, and that one Norman does clean up because he finds it. I think, right?
No, he does. Does he?
No, he doesn't actually. No, he actually has no idea. It's you're made to kind of think maybe he did it. But then, he actually has no idea. Because when they drag the car out, he's genuinely like, I have no idea what's going on here.
So that one I take is, what was her name?
I think that one...
Mrs. Spool is the old lady that works at the diner that's revealed to be
Norman's
actual mother that they reckon next. So she did that one, correct?
Yeah, I would say she did that one because she even says at the end, like, she had to murder anyone who was
trying to hurt
him. Yeah, or trying to get to him. The one in the basement, however, the kid.
I take that as Lila.
See, I think that's Lila trying to frame
Norman.
I genuinely, because it just seems like those kids wouldn't have ended up on Spool's radar at all. They were just randomly there. You know,
who cleaned it up then?
Yeah, that's true. So maybe it was Spool. Maybe everything.
Or maybe she cleaned it up too.
Yeah, she could have. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. What's the because then the next one is Lila.
Yeah, the next one is Lila because Lila
has been dressing up. Her and Meg have been dressing up as.
Yep, and walking past the windows while Norman's down at the hotel, so that Norman sees Mother in the windows.
And Lila has been calling Norman on the phone too, pretending to be Mother.
Calling Norman, pretending to be Mother, and so they have a little hidey hole in the basement with all of the Mother stuff.
A wig and a dress.
A wig and a dress and a knife.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so interesting because when she first goes down there and picks up that brick and you see it, you're like, oh my God, she's the killer. And all of a sudden, you see another mother behind her. And she turns around and screams, and in a great practical effect, the knife just straight
all the way
out
through
the back of her head. Like, you're like, oh,
this classic Hollywood actress.
so gnarly. And just, you know, and then you find her later in the coal pile. That visual's so nasty. Oh my God. That scene right there, the twist where it's not her. Now you're like, and he keeps getting these calls. You're like, oh my God, he's really going crazy.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that's really great is that they first set up that he's getting calls, and those first couple phone calls are obviously Lila.
Right.
But once we get later into the movie where Mary is also on the other end and doesn't hear anything, and Norman is still talking, it's like they're getting to him. Like there's little bits of every time they do something, they're getting to Norman. Yeah, and I'm like, just leave him alone.
I know. Well, and that's the thing. Like he's trying so hard to avoid confrontation with anybody. I mean, he literally like he doesn't want even the nasty sleazy motel owner. He's like, no, I'm not going to deal with you. You're fired. You need to get out of here. I don't need this triggering me. You know, like that's what I took that as, is like he turned it into a sex hotel. Norman knew that was going to be something that triggered him into killing again, because it's clearly a very sexual like trigger. His triggers are sexual, right? And so it was literally him being like, no, you have to leave. You can't do this. This is not what I want my motel to be. It's not good for me. And I was just like, good for you, Norman. You know, like you're trying. You're trying here.
And that's one thing I took away. I'm like, just leave Norman alone. Let him, you know, be a fry cook in the day and work on the hotel at night. Like, just let him be.
And I think honestly, like if Lila Crane hadn't come in, and I know that's the whole point of the movie, but if Lila Crane hadn't come into town and done all this, I don't think Norman would have gone crazy again. You know, I don't think we would have needed a Psycho 3 or a Psycho 4.
Yeah.
We would have just had a happy story about a serial killer reassimilating into society as a normal chap, you know?
I would still watch that.
I would too.
Okay, let's get to the end of this movie then, because I can't wait to talk about this sequence where Mrs. Spool shows up at the house.
Well, so they find out, because remember we're skipping the daughter.
Sorry, yes, the daughter.
So Mary tries to dress up as mother because she thinks Norman's going insane, and to an extent he probably is a little bit. Because, you know, he's still getting the phone calls. She's not hearing anything on these phone calls, but he's talking to mother. So she dresses up as mother and gets scared of him, basically, and is trying to, like, fend him off with a knife. Well, the cops show up, and they at this point know that her and her mother have been messing with Norman, and they just want them out of town because they know that means bad things. And when they finally like burst in, they see her with a knife next to Norman, and they shoot her dead, and they pin everything on her. And you know, like at that point, you're like, no, it wasn't her. It wasn't her. Like, and you know it wasn't her mother doing all of it, at least. You're like, oh my God, who the hell was it? Was it Norman then? And that's when you get to the final twist of the movie,
which is a great shot setting that up. Is you see a woman in the dress done with her hair like mother at the bottom of the Bates house and just like illuminates on those steps,
walking up the steps. Just the silhouette. Oh my God, it's so great. And so when making sandwiches,
of course he loves his sandwiches.
They're always toasted cheese sandwiches. Do you think Norman Bates is a vegetarian?
He could.
That's a weird thought I had.
He eats peanut butter in the third one, though.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, peanut butter's still not meat.
Still not meat. That's true.
I don't know. Like, it's interesting because he doesn't specify which sandwiches in 19. I know it's a stupid tangent to go on, but I was kind of like, it'd be kind of a weird irony that a serial killer
is a vegetarian.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's like my headcanon is like Norman Bates is, he's like, because if you notice in the third one too, he saves a live bird. He wouldn't even hurt the bird. I'm like, I think Norman Bates is a vegetarian.
Could be. He is a simple man, though. He does like his sandwiches.
Yes, he likes the sandwiches.
He's about to have a sandwich when Mrs. Stool shows up. Reveals her whole plot that she was the killer, trying to protect Norman because when Norman was born, she's the actual mother of Norman that gave birth to him.
She's Norma's sister.
Yes. Deemed insane herself. She is. It's basically Norman is left with then Norma. That Norman grew up. The mom that Norman grew up with. Now she is. Now that Norma is gone and Mrs. Stool has returned, she wants to be a part of Norman's life. She's sitting in there in this chair, and Norman comes.
And you think he's gonna poison her. Because he goes to the tea. He goes to the cyanide next to the tea.
He did poison her though.
Oh, did he?
He did because she like starts choking on the tea. And then he comes up with the shovel and just smacks this old lady in the back of the head so hard that a chair explodes underneath her.
She just and the weird thing is like, are you trying to put her out of her misery? Because the shovel doesn't kill her.
No.
She's still convulsing on the ground. It's like, what is this? What am I watching?
It's such a good ending.
It is.
But then you get the iconic, a very iconic shot at the end.
He puts her up in the window, and then he walks out onto those steps, and you see Norman silhouetted against the night sky with one sole light on in the house and Mother in the window. And that was like, that shot right there, I mean, that was when I was like, this is a damn 4-star movie.
Yeah, this is a great movie.
I expect this to be the great movie that it is.
And it completes, like, Norman's arc from the first movie just completely comes full circle, and it totally works like perfectly in this movie. And imagine this task of, Psycho is one of the most iconic movies of all time, period. And you're trying to do a sequel to it 22 years later, and it comes out this good. Yeah, that's crazy.
Insane. And
obviously it was to cash in on the slasher hype of the early 80s.
But they actually had a good idea with it. Like this just goes to prove that, like, even if you're, I mean, cause it's a cash in for sure. But there's also some, like, really creative artistry behind this movie.
Oh, I mean, the fact that you bring back Anthony Perkins and you bring back Lila Crane, like, you're bringing back two of the main characters from the first movie that they didn't need to be in an 80s slasher movie.
No,
but I think it treats the character so well that obviously you would want to come back to play the character you made famous the first time.
Right. And it does. It treats them with respect, and it gives them arcs past
the first movie.
The original. Yeah. And as a segue here, like, you see Psycho 2, you're like, oh, that's kind of like, there's Norman's story, he's come full circle. And then Psycho 3 literally manages to continue that arc in a really interesting way. Like, I was genuinely, I thought, okay, I liked Psycho 2. The rest of this is all downhill from here. And I don't think Psycho 3 is quite as good.
No. I think it's my least favorite of these four.
Oh, really?
But it's also
still my least favorite.
It's still also a 3-star. Like, I still have a blast watching this movie.
Yeah, I think I gave this 3.5.
Yeah. I think it's impossible for me to not like a Psycho movie with Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. I think it's just impossible.
He's too good. Like, even when the script or whatever, or the direction is subpar, which I wouldn't say the direction is subpar here. I would maybe say that about 4. But there's still, and that was probably just due to TV restraints and things. But I think he elevates every single one of these movies.
Okay,
I really do.
This one is a wild movie. This one is full-fledged an 80s slasher movie.
It is sleazy as all hell. Like, they covered this in so much sleaze, it was like my freaking pancakes in the morning. Like,
yeah.
It's just like, it's sticky and messy and disgusting and gross. And just like,
we have to talk about the opening of this movie. This opening of this movie is crazy. Like, makes no sense to anything we've set up before. And
I stopped
so great
because I bought the DVD, like the pack of sequels on DVD from Last Stop.
Did it include the Bates Motel TV movie or TV pilot?
No, they didn't.
It was from like I think it was like the 90s. There was a Bates Motel pilot.
Well, maybe I'll have to check out the special features. Maybe it's on there.
Maybe.
I didn't see it. Yeah, I literally opened up my disc player because I was like, did they give me the right disc? Like, did someone sell and it was. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, it opens up with this nun yelling, "There is no God." She's about to commit suicide and jump off the top of a chapel. The other nuns try to stop her. She ends up accidentally pushing one down
the bell tower.
Down, she dies.
She splatters.
And obviously she either leaves or gets kicked out. And that's how we start the movie. With this,
she gets picked up by a horny hitchhiker or a horny driver, who then tries to
played by Jeff Fahey.
Yeah, and he gets mad when she won't put out and kicks her out of the car, and then he winds up at the Bates Motel, and you're like, who am I supposed to be following in this movie?
What is going on? Yeah.
And then Norman gives him a job
on the spot. No interview. Nothing. Yeah, he is like oozes 80s sleaze, and his character is like a wannabe rock star. He ends up running the motel. What I love about this movie,
like you're gonna get an STD just from watching it.
Well, from a scene later on in the movie, it's probably not too far from the truth. Yeah. Yeah, but this movie, it's directed by Anthony Perkins. That was one of his stipulations, I guess, for coming back for a third movie. He requested that he directed. I think he does a fine job with this. He's going full-fledged into slasher territory with this one, where he
drenches everything in neon.
Yeah, which I love. It feels like an Argento movie in a way.
It does. It has some kind of Giallo.
It does
vibes to it.
I was getting a lot of Giallo vibes, and then from Jeff Fahey's character, I was getting a lot of Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 vibes from him.
Yep.
Like, Chop Top is lit kind of the same way as he is, and then especially later when him and Norman fight, and he's all sweaty and just drenched in sweat, and he's gone crazy too. It's like, what is going on with this movie?
He's so nasty in this movie.
So, I mean, there's not a whole lot of plot to this one going on besides Norman's relationship with the nun character.
Yeah, who shows up later to the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy, in a bit of irony, goes, the guy who literally, assaulted her and then kicked her out of his car, goes, nothing bad's going to happen to you here. And I'm like, and she still checks in. I'm like, I feel like you can walk up the road and just find, a bed and breakfast in town or something, before you go and do something here.
Hang out with this sleazeball. But what it does is, this is also another trigger for Norman. She looks like Marion Crane. She has the initials MC. She checks into room 1, which is the same room that Marion was in. But I think this, out of all the female relationships, this is the one that works the most for me in a weird way. Yeah. Because we get...
Their relationship is actually really sweet.
Yeah, and there's a point at the end of the movie when we get to her demise, the nun characters. I was like, I feel bad. Especially once we get into 4, it would make more sense for her to be around in 4 than the character we get there. But her character arc in this, I kind of dig. I kind of enjoy what's going on with her character because, I mean, she's very depressed. She has a crisis of faith. She doesn't know where her life is going. And when she checks into the Bates Motel, I mean, we get the iconic scene of someone peeping through the peephole in the office, and
you think you're going to get shower scene part 2.
Yeah, her going into the shower with a little more gratuitous looks in this one than the 60s version. But when we get to it, we see, Norman in the wig and the dress and the knife, and we're going to get the iconic shower scene again. But it opens and she's in the bathtub with her wrist slit.
And she's bleeding out. Like, it's I mean, and I thought it was really interesting how she saw an angel in place of Norman.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I really didn't know in this scene. I'm like, whoa, where is this gonna go? Is she gonna die and it's gonna be pinned on Norman? Is it gonna, you know what I mean? Like, are the cops gonna think, oh, he's getting smarter, he's staging it as suicide? And then he saves her. He brings her into the hospital. And there's some suspicion about why he was even in the room, understandably. And he gives him I was just getting him some towels. And from there, it turns into this almost like relationship drama with some slasher elements thrown into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they strike up a friendship. They kind of, more than
it's a full-fledged relationship between these two in this one.
Full-fledged relationship, yeah.
And I for Norman, this, like, in his arc through the 4 movies, like, this one really works for me. And this is kind of the one where I wish it would have stuck. Because it feels like if this was the case, like, we started Norman's journey for us, the viewers, with Marion Crane, and like how she is kind of this different representation of her, and one that would actually have a connection with Norman, unlike Marion Crane, who was just, a sex symbol for Norman. In that case, he didn't really know her. But this case, he gets to know her, and they develop this actual relationship between the two.
And their scene in the hospital has one bit of fan service that just like had me going like, yeah. And it's where she goes like, she says something along the lines of like, I tried killing myself in your hotel or your motel. You must think I'm absolutely mad. And Perkins knows exactly where he's going with this. And he lets that line linger for so long. There's just silence before he finally goes, we all go a little mad sometimes. And I was just like, yes, like, just chef's kiss on that.
Yeah, and again, this movie, for being so sleazy as it is, earns all those moments too. I think those really work really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, once we get to her demise, which I do think is an unfortunate one. Yeah. Like, I wish she would have stuck around for 4, but again, that's where we get our iconic homage to the detective kill from the first movie, where she falls back down the staircase the exact same way. Except gets impaled by this, like Cupid doll at the bottom of the steps.
There's like a weird wooden decoration on the wall.
Norman, why do you have sharp objects protruding from the bottom of your staircase?
Yeah. It's just, Well, and then you've got the homecoming celebration that happens at the Bates Motel. Doesn't end well. He kills a couple people.
He just kills the one girl who just was not partying and looking to go.
Yeah.
I felt like that's where they're like, well, we need another kill in this movie. But it has a great sequence after that, is when the detectives are looking for her and her body's in the ice chest, and
oh my God,
the sheriff is eating the ice with the
ice, literally defending Norman to this person who genuinely thinks rightly thinks that he killed them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's so awesome. You also have the telephone booth kill, which I think comes before that. I can't even remember.
Yeah, that was the first. That was the first one in this, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's the first kill, and that one's gruesome.
Good.
Like,
that one feels like a giallo kill.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it's just there's a lot of like really good kills in here, without necessarily having a lot of reason for the kills. Mm-hmm. Like in Psycho 2 and in the original Psycho, you feel the reason for every kill. Whereas this one, it almost kind of feels like he's just kind of killing at random type of thing. That being said, where this movie goes as far as terms of Norman Bates' character is maybe might be the most interesting of all of these movies, honestly. Like you said, when we get to her demise, that's a turning point for him, where all of a sudden Mother is not the wonderful woman he once thought she was. And he kind of turns on Mother. Oh,
yeah, and ends up getting rid of, he cuts the stuffed corpse of Mother down like to nothing, to dust.
He stabs her out and just like, and it's just so interesting because he gets arrested for killing all these people. And then as he's getting into the cop car, the cop, we were rooting for you, Norman. We wanted what was best for you. And now you're getting like, what was it all for? And he goes, no, I'm finally free. I'm free from her. And it's just like, shit.
Yeah, it's a great line at the end of this movie.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's almost like I finished this and I'm like, God, do I even want to watch 4? This just seems like a perfect place to end his character.
Yeah.
It's tragic, but it's also like
he feels hopeful at the end of it though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's interesting, and I love it. I love the last shot being a mirror of the shot from the original, just in the backseat of the car, him looking up at the camera and smiling. And it's just, yeah. So
should we jump into Psycho 4 then?
Yeah. The one that I was like watching going, this feels made for TV. And then I looked it up and I'm like, this was made for TV.
Was made for TV, 1990, directed by Mick Garris.
Who I still believe is a better podcast host than a director.
I think he even agrees. Yeah, I like Mick Garris. He's a great horror personality. I love that he keeps all the great iconic directors like in touch with each other. Mm-hmm. He is a
Postmortem is
great.
My second favorite podcast behind this one. And I'm a little partial to this.
A little biased.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is a great podcast host, and I think he just loves the horror genre so much, and then that kind of bleeds into his podcast. Even with his horror, like I don't think he's a great director, but I feel the horror love in everything he does.
Yes.
Even though nothing that he does is really great.
No.
This might be the best thing he's done.
He does fun like TV stuff, like I think the Shining miniseries was hampered by the budget more than anything, and just the fact that it was following up an iconic movie. But yeah, Mick Garris, he does TV movies that are typically pretty good for what they are, and this is no different. I actually would agree that I think this is probably my favorite thing I've seen of his.
Well, so far. Like I find enjoyment in like Sleepwalkers, but it's not great, And
I've never seen Sleepwalkers. I'll have to check that one out.
A wild movie.
I think you'll like one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you'll like it.
I'm a sucker for Stephen King stuff, so.
But yeah, this is takes. I think does it ignore the last 2 movies, or just kind of never touches on them really? But
it doesn't really touch on them. Yeah,
unless Norman only spent 4 years in jail, or in the asylum, I don't know.
Yeah, because the thing is like he's back to calling Norma his mother, which I guess could just be a thing where he's like, well, she's the woman who raised me, but it almost feels like it's erasing the whole Miss Spool. Like,
well, the third one does end with that's already erased. When that reporter character reveals to Norman, she wasn't your real mother either. Like,
that's right.
Totally backtracking on the reveal of the last
one. And she was crazy, and yeah, that's true.
Which she could very well still be Norman's aunt. That would still make sense. But yeah. But this one opens with Norman is now 30 years removed from the first movie. He is married, he is living the suburban life.
Yeah,
has a total 90s house, calls into this radio station that is doing this like late night talk show on killers and murderers who kill their moms, which I didn't know was a hot topic. I didn't know that was a hot topic for late night talk shows, but I guess it is. So Norman calls in because he feels like he is about to kill again.
Yeah.
And on the show is the radio host and then a psychiatrist. Yeah, who is also the same character that apparently, that I didn't know this watching the movie, I looked it up after, that does the exposition dump from the first movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same character. Well, it doesn't play into any plot of this movie, but
no, I think they make like a very brief mention of it at some
that he knows Norman.
But I kind of forgot that. Yeah.
And Norman doesn't go by his name when he's on the phone with them until later.
Right. They have to figure out that it's Norman and then figure out where he's living now. And I gotta say, like, I like the wraparound story of this more so than I like the flashback aspects of it. And I think part of it is just the fact that it's, Anthony Perkins. Yeah. And part of it is just like, every time it flashback, like, you kind of know what happens. You know the mythos of Norman Bates. You know where it's all going. And there's some interesting stuff back there. But like what I really got interested in was the reason why he's planning on killing again. The reason, like, his wife is pregnant and he does not want his seed in this world anymore. Like he wanted the madness to end with him. Like he doesn't want to spread that more so into the world. And I thought that was a really interesting way to take the character. Yeah,
I do like both parts of this. I don't feel either is very well fleshed out completely, because you are splitting 90 minutes between two very different time periods in this guy's life.
Essentially two kind of short films.
Yeah.
Mashed together and then interspliced.
Yeah. And so we should probably set up, this is also a prequel and sequel to the Psycho movies.
Yeah.
We get flashbacks with young Henry Thomas playing young Norman Bates.
Talk about that for a minute.
Who's really great. He's really great.
Henry Thomas is a good Norman Bates. And Henry Thomas also, like, this guy has balls. He took on Jack Torrance in Dr. Sleep.
I was just going to say, he's
on Norman Bates.
That was my first thought when I saw him pop up. I'm like, oh, he's played two very iconic horror characters and is not the definitive version of that, and does both very well.
Yeah. I'm like, this guy, like, well,
granted, I think there's only ever been one bad Norman, and we'll talk about that next, but I think Henry Thomas is really good. I think what's the actor's name that plays him in Bates Motel?
Freddie Highmore.
Yeah,
Freddie Highmore is a great Norman
He's
Bates.
Really good. Like the modern version, like I would cast Andrew Garfield as Norman Bates. Would be my Norman right now.
I could see. Yeah, because his Peter Parker was almost Norman Bates.
And he has an Anthony Perkins look to him.
Yes, he does.
His Peter Parker. A little bit. But yeah, I think this at least adds a little interesting dynamics to the mother-son relationship.
Yeah.
Very weird relationship between the two.
Yeah, it's almost a bit of a shower movie because you end it and you're like, ew.
Yeah. It's also the TV version of that too. Like they don't push the envelope too far.
But they push it. I'm glad it was TV enough. Because if it was anything more, I would have probably been. I don't know if I would have finished it if it went too much further.
And I mean,
it pushes.
I think we have to compare this to the Bates Motel TV series because they're very, very similar. Psycho 4 and that series.
Yeah.
Touch on many of the same things. I mean, obviously they have set up that Norman killed more than his mom and her boyfriend and Marion Crane. He's killed a lot more before then. They set this up and show a few of those. And I think
it's very much driven by like sexual desire and his mother shaming him of those sexual desires, that type of thing.
Yeah. And this movie made me more interested to go watch the TV show. So I'm like, I kind of want more of that. I want more of what's going on between those two characters.
That's why I ended up starting the TV show after watching the series, because they're like, oh man, it's all on Netflix, and it's I don't know. Like I said, I've only seen the first 3 seasons, but I think it's worth checking out. Yeah. I think it's a fun show. So,
the only other thing I want to touch on Psycho 4 is something you talked about was the fact that Norman has now married a woman he met while he was in the institution. She was a nurse or one of his doctors.
Yeah, she was like a nurse at the psychiatric ward, and I'm like, Harley Quinn much? Like,
hey, this was before that. Maybe Harley Quinn was based on Norman and his wife. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's where I felt like the nun character would have made a little more sense.
Yeah,
if
sure.
her character would have survived that. Is that now Norman is with her, and still he can still have the exact same arc that he has in this. Doesn't matter who his wife is. She's given nothing to do in this. She's a non-character. She's just Norman's wife, and she's pregnant. Yeah. And I think that's all she's given. And it's more so Norman is very scared of having a child.
Yeah.
And that Norman firmly believes that all of his murderous ways and the way he views the world are because of his genetics, not necessarily his upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this movie really pushes towards you're not born the way you are. You develop it through your.
It's nurture versus nature, and it's making the argument that it's how you're raised, not how you're born.
Yeah. And it's a very positive outlook on that too.
Yeah.
Especially the way that this movie ends. You know, it ends with inexplicably it's on Norman's birthday too. They end up at the Bates house. He tells his wife to meet him at his mother's house. And because he's gonna kill her there and put an end to the Bates line.
Not as mother, he's going to kill her as Norman.
As Norman.
And that's important to him, that this is him ending things, not mother.
Yeah, and I think that's where 2 and 3 I still think filter into this too.
Yeah.
Where he is not, in the mother personality in this. There's no Norman in a dress. Yeah, it's fully Norman Bates, and I do love the poetic irony of this one now, because in the last one in 3 we get the end of Norman being mother. He's fully separated that part of his conscience, and by the end of that movie, but he still has the fact that he's Norman Bates. Like it's always going to haunt him, and I feel like the poetic irony or the poetic justice of him burning down the Bates Motel, where all these bad memories occurred, or the Bates house. Rather, where all these bad memories occurred, are the kind of the final stepping stone for Norman to fully
have a normal life.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool, optimistic way to end the series. I don't know if it particularly does it well, but it's pulled off by Anthony Perkins, and his Norman Bates is one of the greatest characters of all time. And I pity anybody who takes on the role. Like, even when they do a good job, even when they're a Henry Thomas, even when they're a Freddie Highmore, they are still going to be under that shadow of Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates, because he had 4 movies, and
it felt like the same character through all 4. Felt like the proper progression for the character through all of them.
Well, and you think about this, and I don't know if there's ever been a character that has spanned over 30. I mean, because like 1960 to 1990, that's 30 years. And for it to be as seamless as it is in his performance, I don't know if we've ever seen that I don't think we've ever seen that in any series, to be totally honest. I'm a massive fan of Star Wars. I'm a massive fan of The Last Jedi. And I still don't necessarily think that Mark Hamill quite pulls off that he's the same Luke Skywalker as he was in the OT. And maybe part of that is due to the way his character's written, but like, it doesn't, I don't know if I've ever seen a series where it's like, from beginning to end, this actor plays this same character. No questions. No questions about it. Like, Anthony Perkins just kills it.
Yeah, and I think that there are other ones I could throw out, like even like Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, but there's bad ones in there too. Like there's ones that don't feel right.
And the character still changes. He goes a little Looney Tunes in the water.
This one feels like Norman Bates, like proper progression from 1960 to 1990.
Right. You can't put that on England for a couple weird entries. It's how they're written.
Yeah.
But it's still not as consistent character work as you're seeing in these movies, in these Psycho movies.
All right. Should we wrap up the Anthony Perkins portion and then touch on Gus Van Sant's Psycho from 1998? The first person to tackle.
For those that aren't watching the video, I'm smiling right now because I have thoughts.
So Psycho 1998. I have not watched this since 2013, so I don't have fond memories of this movie. So basically, I don't think we really need to get into the plot because it's the same plot and same shots as the first Psycho movie. This is literally a shot-for-shot remake of the original.
It's in color.
It is in color, different actors.
There's a few edits that are a little modernized. But yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it is very much the same movie.
This is one of the most unnecessary movies ever made in every portion. And from what I understand, I've heard some rumors from Gus Van Sant as to why he made this movie and stuff. And one of the big things I heard him say about it is that he made it so no one else could. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I mean,
I have the DVD on my shelf. I'm gonna go get the director's note from it because it's interesting. I will crap on it until you get back then, Sam. Okay, sounds good.
This is not a good movie. This is a pointless shot-for-shot remake, like I said. None of the characters hold up to the original. I mean, I love William H. Macy. You know, he might be a better actor than the person who played the private detective in the first movie, but everything around him just does not work. That iconic shot of his character falling down the staircase is laughable in this. The poster is horrible.
What?
Yeah.
No. You can say as much as you want about this movie, but that poster is dope.
I think it is horrible.
That poster is so dope. Also, you know what's kind of funny, Casey? As I was watching these movies, I found a random ticket stub on the floor of my living room. Like, it must have fallen under the couch. It was literally my ticket stub from when I went to Psycho earlier this year. And it was midway through my marathon when I found it.
Anne Heche is terrible in this movie. Yeah. But, I mean, the biggest sin this movie commits is Vince Vaughn. I think he is just... I don't
disagree.
You might be the only defender of Vince Vaughn's performance. He is terribly miscast. And I think Vince Vaughn is a very good actor, very good comedic actor, but he can also do drama as well. He is horribly miscast in this movie. He cannot deliver any of these lines with the right amount of nuance to it. Like I don't feel any empathy towards his Norman Bates. He doesn't pull anything off that Anthony Perkins does of being this relatable character, but also being very quirky and one we, have to keep our eyes on, just kind of, keep an eye on that guy at all times. And the mother stuff. It just does not work. This movie does not work at all. Go ahead.
All right, let's try, rebuttal.
Try to hear.
Rebuttal. Okay, so essentially, I'm not going to read the entire production notes, but essentially, it's just this is how the production note ends. Van Sant wanted the power of those moments, the manner in which suspense is created, sustained, and made almost bearable, to be authentic as possible, but also to be visceral and exciting as Hitchcock himself would have required. That's not what I was looking for. I don't know. I'm not going to read through all of this. All I want you to know is that if you have the DVD, you got to read the production notes. It kind of sheds a whole new light on this. And it made me interested in this movie more as a cinematic experience or a cinematic experiment more so than an actual film to sit down and enjoy, because you're right. It's unnecessary. It's woefully miscast in just about every way. But I still kind of love this movie. And here's why. I think that no other remake has ever done something like this. This, despite its faults, and essentially because of its faults, is one of the most interesting movies ever made, because it's literally taking a timeless classic that no one in their right mind would ever remake. I question the sanity of any of the directors that have taken on the sequels, but I especially question Van Sant's sanity in trying to create a masterpiece twice.
The same movie. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, like this. And it's so interesting because even though the camera angles are all there, it's the script. It's literally the same movie, but not nearly as effective. It's so interesting. And also, just because Vince Vaughn is miscast does not mean his performance is terrible in this. Van Sant takes the sexuality dial and he ramps it up to 11. And that is why Vince Vaughn does a decent job in this. I think one of the weirdest things that I've ever seen is the fact that, like, he doesn't just, like, Van Sant doesn't, he's not okay with just Norman Bates being a peeping Tom. Vince Vaughn unbuckles his pants and jerks off in this movie. Like,
yeah,
it takes it that one step further.
Unnecessary.
It's not necessary, but that's what he does every time. He cranks up the sexuality of it, and it turns into this, like, you're uneasy watching it. And part of it is this uncanny valley of, like, this is the same movie, but in bright pastel colors. And part of it is, ew, they're really going for the sex part of this. And part of it is just the fact that, like, it's not a good movie. And I thoroughly enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, this is, it's one I watched.
Vince Vaughn's Peter Griffin laugh is the best part about this movie.
I again, like I said at the beginning, I watched this right after I watched the original Psycho, and I was like, why did I watch the same movie twice, even though the second one is much, much worse? I do not plan on ever watching this again. I'm glad you found enjoyment in it, though. I do like William H. Macy in the movie, and that's just because he is one of my favorite actors. I think he's great. He's great in this movie. But yeah, it just, none of it works for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, it doesn't. But I think that's why I like it, is that it doesn't work and that it's interesting because it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'll give it that. That is an interesting experiment to do literally a shot-for-shot remake of a movie with new actors and new cast. And
because by all intents and purposes, if it's the same script, the same shots, theoretically, you're 2/3 of the way to making a perfect movie.
That is true.
It's far from it. I also kind of like the added addition of the bird cage during the mother reveal, where, like, when Lila goes down into the basement, she hears the birds cawing and she goes behind the curtain, and that's where mother is, and there's, like, all the birds flying around her. I just think that's interesting. I also think, well, and then another thing that was kind of interesting was they extend the little scuffle between Norman and Sam.
Yeah.
And it doesn't add anything to the movie. It's just, I don't know. This movie is so weird. And I can't help but admit that, like, I had a smile on my face the whole time I was watching it. Because I'm like, this should theoretically work. This should still be, like, this should be a masterpiece akin to Psycho, because it's the same movie, and it's not. And it just, I don't know, that paradox just blows my mind, man. And I loved it. Like, I don't know. It's a terrible movie.
It is a terrible movie. Yeah.
But it has no right to be. It has no right to be a terrible movie. It's so great. I don't know. I'm like talking in circles, but
yeah. should we kind of wrap this up? I only have one final thought I didn't touch on Psycho 3. When Norman is stuffing one of the birds that he found, a dead bird, he starts filling it up with like sawdust or whatever they put inside his taxidermy animals. He takes that same spoon, puts all the sawdust or whatever inside the bird, uses the same spoon, picks up some peanut butter, puts it on a cracker, and eats it.
I noticed that too. It's so nasty.
It's like, look how crazy he is. So unnecessary, but I loved it.
I still love that scene with the bird, though, where he lets it go. That's my final thought.
It is.
Norman Bates is a vegetarian.
He loves animals, that Norman.
He loves animals. He hates hot women.
All right, let's wrap this up. I think you recommend all 5 of the movies that we discussed.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. The remake I recommend purely as you should watch it just to see how insane it is. But yeah, otherwise, like the first 4, totally recommend.
Yeah, highly recommend all 4 of those movies. Like, yeah, watch all 4, and those make a great quadruple feature. Watching all 4, especially 1 and 2. I think 2 is easily the best. Quickly, Killer Countdown style, what would you rank the Psycho series out of these 5?
I think I rank them literally in the order of release. I think it's Psycho, Psycho 2, Psycho 3, Psycho 4, and then remake.
Yeah, I would go with Psycho, Psycho 2, Psycho 4, Psycho 3, the remake. So we're not too far off.
It's one of those things where I just felt like this is declining returns every time. And it's, like I said, I know I like the remake more than most people, just purely as a social experiment. But there's really not a film in this series that I wouldn't recommend. And I recommend Bates Motel. Go watch Bates Motel. At least the first 3 seasons. Can't speak for 4 or 5, but I do. I think I found one of my new favorite horror series.
Yeah, this is one of the most under the radar best horror series out there. Highly recommend. Yeah, let's wrap this up. Psycho, go check out all 4 of those, or all 5 in the case of Sam. All those movies. Let us know in the comments what you think of all those. Yeah, we're really excited to release this one. We hope you all enjoyed listening to our almost 2-hour long discussion on the Psycho series. If you want to subscribe to us, we are on Stitcher Radio, not Stitcher, Anchor. We are on Anchor for this show. This is where it's released. That's kind of our hub, so check us out there. It is also available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and on YouTube. Just simply search SlashLot 605. You'll find us there. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram on Backlot 605. It's where we release all of our podcasts on there on our main hub, Backlot 605 and backlot605.com. You can check out our latest movie news, reviews, articles, discussion. Any of Sam's movie reviews will be up there on backlot605.com. Yeah.
Sweet.
Sam, do you have anything else you want to plug before we head out for the last episode of this year?
No, gosh. 2020's been crazy. Just check out Schmuckies next month.
Yes.
Backlot 605.
Hell yes. If you want more information, head over to our Facebook or our website. Check out our Schmuckies Movie Awards. Me and Sam are working behind the scenes on that. That should be a lot of fun. We also have our inputs for some of the nominees, so I think there might be some horror representation on these awards, unlike the Oscars.
Yep, most of mine were horror. So.
Yeah. Next month, though, in January, we are going to be, we're going to be doing, the Schmuckies for the awards, and that'll be for movies in general. But for SlashLot 605, we're going to be doing, myself, Sam, and Blake, our top 10 horror movies of the year. All 3 of us will make our own top 10 list. Cannot wait to see what is on your guys' list.
Yeah, I'm excited because I think we all are going to have some very different lists going into this thing. So. Yeah.
Very excited for it. This is the last episode for 2020, so thank you all for listening. Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Happy holidays, y'all.
Bye-bye.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.